but he'll give it to you good.
The Jackal.
Welcome one, welcome all, welcome friends, welcome foes to another exciting episode right here live on psn-radio.com. This is Inside the Jackal's Head. I am Angel Espino, the host, and of course we're being carried by the world-famous SoFloRadio.com and Global Enlightenment Radio Network. I want to welcome all my listeners to another beautiful evening on October 11th, 2020. The days keep creeping up to election night. I hope everybody's having a good time and staying COVID-free, which is the most important thing. We need you guys on November 3rd to go out there and hammer that vote. So please, relax, stay indoors, do your thing, have fun, but stay healthy. We need you. I have a good show for you tonight. I have a lot of clips I want to get to, some news, a couple announcements that I want to make in a little bit. I'm going to be joined by a young lady who's been on the network before. I think this might be her first voyage into the Jackal's Head. Officially, maybe. I'm not sure how. I've done a lot of shows, folks. Can't help it. Sonia is going to be in the house within the next 25 minutes before we go on a quick break, and she's going to join me for some news. And I love having friends on to go over information and news and get their perspective of what's happening and see what their input is from their neck of the woods. And she is a Trump supporter, which is of course what we here on this show right now are really focusing on. Because, yes, my friends, the upcoming election is going to be probably, without a doubt, right now, the most important election, at least, of my lifetime. I've been on this little blue marble for 20, I wish, no, 30, no, I wish, I'm a little older than that. 42 years, folks. 42 years. And it feels a lot longer than that. It feels like you could double that, like 84 years. And that's kind of how I feel sometimes. But that's because of health issues. I've been here for 42 years. Been in this country for 40 years. And I've seen elections come as a kid. I've seen them go as a teenager, as an adult. And I could say without a doubt, in my lifetime, there has never been a more important election than the one coming up on November 3rd. So I want all my listeners, friends, compadres, comrades, and everybody in between the sheets right now with their significant others to please go out and vote. Very important. And Sonia is going to drop in, of course, her 2 cents on the whole subject and the matters that be when it comes to the world that we live in. So I look forward to having her on within the next 25 minutes. And I want to actually give a shout out to the show that was on earlier tonight. Kate, Around the Campfire with Kate. Really, really good show. I hope you guys are tuning in and checking her out. It's an hour-long podcast. She has a lot of experience as a boots-on-the-ground type of person when it comes to a lot of the stuff that she covers, whether it's military, whether it's, conspiratorial, whatever you want to call it. It's a really good podcast. Again, an hour long with Kate Around the Campfire. She had a very special caller, actually really special dude, good friend, and of course he's the follow-up show here on PSN Radio. Mr. Kaiser himself called in because he had to drop in a couple cents to the topic tonight, and she was really hammering it out. She gave a biblical historical account which connects to what's happening these days, my friends. So the podcast is up on SoundCloud, which, by the way, I do want to promote heavily. If you guys have SoundCloud, you can go to soundcloud.com and check out PSN Radio. All our podcasts are up there for free. But again, if you guys just go to psn-radio.com, you could go ahead and check out all our shows on there. They're all archived in there as well. And big stuff happening on the network. Wanted to really announce before I get on to the network news, though. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Want to thank a few people who have been contributing really on the network, and wanted to also address an emergency, so to speak, for all the listeners. Right now, of course, as everything is kind of on a shutdown mode with COVID-19, the Kung Fu virus that came from China. We're all in crunch mode right now. I understand we're all, having financial troubles at the moment, and as everybody else, I'm feeling the crunch. And a while back, I set up a Patreon page to try to get contributions to help not only myself and the network, but to help, as it grows, eventually, hopefully, help the shows that are on the network. So, to all the listeners, please check out my Patreon page. Check out patreon.com/Angel Espino, and you'll find me on right there. Easy way also to check out the page. If you go to my main website, www.angelespino.com. That's ANGELESPINO, Espino.com. All one word, AngelEspino.com. And you'll see a little tab on the right side that says Patreon. Click on that. We also have ways for PayPal donations. You can check that also on the page. And, PayPal, Patreon, just whatever you can chip in, it's greatly appreciated. I want to give, really special shout-outs to people who have been really showing their support. Starting off with Mac Maloney. Thank you, Mac, for your contribution to the network. I really appreciate it. Kate made a very nice contribution as well. I want to thank her for her contribution. As always, Kaiser. He's been one of the longest Patreons on the network for a long, long time now. So he's always thanked for his contributions. Mitchell Nicholas Gerber joined the contribution campaign for PSN Radio, and the one and only, the wolf himself, the compassionate one, Oscar Benjamin, just joined also on Patreon. So I want to thank those folks out for being true Patreons of PSN Radio and Inside the Jackal's Head. And the more people I get on there, the shout-outs will continue and go to them every Sunday show. And, man, it's something I really want to get, out there for as listeners to. Please, do any amount you can. I'm not asking you to break the bank or anything, but if you can chip in a few bucks, please do so. We're, funded only by word of mouth, and hopefully YouTube one day will let us monetized. But you know how that goes. YouTube is catch-22, really. Monetize one day, dump the next. It's like my love life, I'm here one day, and then she's gone the next. But Patreon is pretty solid, so thanks for those folks who have joined on there. Again, we have Sonia coming up within the next 20 minutes or so. There's a couple things I do want to get to, which are just fascinating. But before I do that, I have a couple of big shows that I just booked coming up. And, in fact, one of the ones that I just managed to book is going to have me on his show. And this is an honor, folks. It really is, because as anybody who's been listening to this show for a decade, minus the couple of years I took off because of health issues and personal stuff that I don't want to talk about because it's just, sad. But as a lot of you that have been listening and following me for years and years know that I'm a big, big, big believer, follower, and supporter of the Travis Walton experience, the case that happened in 1975, just 2 years before I was born. Remember, I'm a 1977 child. And a couple of years before I was born, this man went through this amazing experience with a few of his logging buddies. And I've been very fortunate to have Travis on a few times. I had Steve Pierce on. And now I'm going to be on the gentleman who is also going to be my guest coming up on this show in a few weeks. The one and only Mr. Mike Heston Rogers, who is probably Travis's, I would say, at the time, maybe still. I mean, I'm pretty sure they still are, but they're best of buds, and he was there the night that Travis was taken, and he's going to be on my show on the 25th coming up, and I'm going to be doing, I think it's going to be a pre-record, I believe, tomorrow at 11, so I don't think it's going to be live, but it's going to be on KGRA. And shout-outs to Race Hobbs and all those folks over there. Should be an excellent show. He's a heck of a gentleman. I've been chatting with him on Facebook earlier, and I really look forward to having him on. Really fascinating case. That's one of the ones that got me excited. I still remember as a kid when I would, really start kind of digging into the whole UFO stuff, and I saw that movie, and it just fascinated me ever since. So getting him on and having 3 of the members that were there is just a dream come true. It really is. I said it a long time ago. The folks that I really wanted to interview more than anybody else, there was a list of them, and in that list included, of course, everybody on the Fire in the Sky, not the movie, but the actual people that were there. The actual people that experienced what Travis went through. That was tops on my list because, again, that story is what captivated me and really got me into the entire subject. That and the experiences I had in California where I saw my first UFO. And ever since then, and what I've experienced after hours and hours of goofing off in the middle of nowhere and just sky watching with friends and stuff over the years, it's become a passion. Of course, you guys follow the Skywatchers radio podcast that I used to do with Alan and Crystal, and we did that for, 3 years, I believe? And that was a heck of a good show. We did that on Dark Matter Digital Network, also here on PSN Radio, and I really enjoyed, doing that show because we got to deal with a lot of people in ufology. And I think we probably went through, everybody. All the big, other than Bob Lazar, I don't know who we missed within ufology. We had just about everybody on there. And shout-outs to Seth Allen Weiler, my old co-host. He really wants to bring that show back, but he's been so busy with, considering how we've all kind of been locked down and shut out because of this Kung Flu, he's actually been very, very busy. I don't know how he does it, but the man's like a money-making machine, and, he still hasn't contributed to the Patreon. I'm going to have to send him a email and saying, "What's up, man? What gives? Contribute, man, contribute." But he wants to hop back on the Skywatchers one day, and maybe we'll bring that show back. I don't know yet. I'm waiting for him to tell me it's ready to go. I'm ready to do it. It's up to him now. Now, I do have a clip that I want to get to before I do bring in Sonia onto the show. We start going over some news, and I start asking her a couple really personal questions. One of the clips I wanted to get to is this really, I would say, interesting admission by one Mr. George Soros. And I know a lot of you are fed, misinformation by the left on the fake news media when they tell you, "Oh, George Soros is a nice guy. There's nothing to see here." Take a good listen to this little audio I'm going to play. And you tell me this sounds like a nice guy. I mean, it doesn't sound like he's all there, and a lot of folks are starting to wonder if maybe he's behind the riots, the looting, and a lot of the stuff that we're facing in the country right now coming up to the upcoming election. So listen to this.
It was actually probably the happiest year of my life, that year of German occupation. For me, it was a very positive experience. It's a strange thing, because you see incredible suffering around you, and in fact, you're in considerable danger yourself. But you're 14 years old, and you don't believe that it can actually touch you. You have a belief in yourself, your belief in your father. It's a very happy-making, exhilarating experience.
While hundreds of thousands of Hungarian Jews were being shipped off to the death camps, George Soros accompanied his phony godfather on his appointed rounds, confiscating property from the Jews. These are pictures from 1944 of what happened to George Soros's friends and neighbors.
You're a Hungarian Jew who escaped the Holocaust by posing as a Christian.
Right.
And you watched lots of people get shipped off to the death camps.
Right. I was 14 years old. And I would say that that's when my character was made.
In what way?
That one should think ahead, one should understand and anticipate events, and one is threatened. It was a tremendous threat of evil. I mean, it was a very personal experience of evil.
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes, yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years. Was it difficult?
Not at all. Not at all. Maybe as a child you don't see the connection, but it created no problem at all.
No feeling of guilt.
No.
For example, that I'm Jewish, and here I am watching these people go. I could just as easily be there. I should be there. None of that.
Well, of course, I could be on the other side, or I could be the one from whom the thing is being taken away. But there was no sense that I shouldn't be there, because that was, well, actually, funny way, it's just like in markets, that if I weren't there, of course I wasn't doing it, but somebody else would be taking it away anyhow. In other words, whether I was there or not, I was only a spectator, the property was being taken away. So I had no role in taking away that property. So I had no sense of guilt.
Are you religious?
No.
Do you believe in God?
No, I'm not religious. I'm agnostic myself, but just think about what he said there. I mean, he really had no sympathy for the folks who were slaughtered by Hitler. So, looking at what's coming up in the election, you have to really wonder if this person who worked with the Nazis directly is behind a lot of the stuff that's happening, because a lot of this stuff is Marxist, Nazi-like behavior that we're seeing in this country right now. And coming up on the 18th, this is something I want to address also with Mike, because, he was part of an experience with which is otherworldly. But I'm pretty sure he's going to have, some insight on how this all connects. I think everything is connected. We had Steve Bassett on, and me and Steve were talking about possibly disclosure happening soon, and he said as close as maybe next year on April. And I think that might not be that off. I think he's pretty on point. And I think a lot of the stuff that we're facing now has to do with restructuring the planet in a weird way, and it might have to do with maybe some of the entities that have been experimenting on us or maybe overlooking this planet. So, this is something that we're going to have to really address, I think, in the very near future. Unfortunately, the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about George Soros. They always throw the veil over him like he's untouchable. Wonder why that is. We know the mainstream media cannot be trusted. They lie about everything. And they just constantly lie. I mean, look how much lying has gone on ufology, folks. I mean, they've covered up Roswell how many times now? How many times have they not tried to debunk Travis, for example? It's ridiculous to look at Bob Lazar and how many times he's been, attempted to be debunked over the years. And nothing sticks when they try to debunk Travis or Bob Lazar or Roswell. There's always other people that come forward and they try to destroy people's credibilities and lives, because I do think there's something there, and I think it's all interconnected. I think somehow the actions by Soros is all interconnected. So I'm really, excited to have a chance to ask somebody who was there with Travis all about what he thinks is actually, maybe interconnected. So again, on the 18th, I'm going to be having Mike Rogers on the show here, and that's going to be awesome. And I'm going to do his show tomorrow, and hopefully everything goes great and smooth, and we have an awesome show. On the 25th, following that, Nick Redfern has been confirmed to be on the show. And Nick Redfern has been on here before, and he's a really interesting fella. He's written more books than I've read in my entire life. And I wish I was kidding about that, but I probably am not. He's written a lot of books, folks. But he's one of the big wigs when it comes to the world of ufology and paranormal. I mean, if you want somebody who's been there, done that, and has researched his butt off over the last 20 years, Nick Redfern is one of those guys. Fascinating gentleman. I've had him on a couple times now, and every time he's on, it's just a great interview. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple of weeks. Again, next week, Mike Heston Rogers, and then after that, Nick Redfern, both on the show. And the reason I, again, played that George Soros clip, and I really wanted to lead off with that tonight, is because that's really, I think, going to be a topic of debate for the next few months as we're leading towards the end of the year and possibly having either Trump win and continue, a positive, future for this country, or have total takeover. And we're going to see some very dark times. And I do think it's all interconnected. I think George Soros is interconnected with it. I think the alien agenda might be interconnected with it. And I think it all ties in together. And that's why we're all facing it now on 2020, which ironically enough is really, I mean, look at the year we've had. I mean, this has not been an easy year. We started the year off already with impeachment of the president. It's been like a soap opera back and forth with Congress, the Senate, the president. And then we got hit with the Kung Flu. The Pentagon released, acknowledgement that UFOs are real, which a lot of people are like, well, we knew that already, but can you tell us more? And, I think there is more to come, guys. I really do believe that. And I think we're getting prepped for disclosure. And I think it's all part of the plan. Now, it can go either way. It could be a positive thing or it could be a negative thing. As we know in Hollywood, they like to spice things up and make them horror-like. And they give you this terrible horror-ish, scary movie type of spin. And we get too much of that. So I hope it is a positive experience if they do come down and make themselves aware and we do get disclosure. If it's negative, well, I mean, we're in for a heck of a next few months. If Trump wins, That's going to at least give me some ability to ration what might be happening, because rationale, if you really use logic and just pure, clear mind thought, there is no way that people out there cannot be looking at what's happening in the climate of what's happening with the left and not see the rig that they're trying to put into this thing. I mean, from Nancy Pelosi now trying to get the second or the 25th Amendment to try to oust the president. I mean, how ridiculous is that, folks? I mean, just that in itself is preposterous. You have people like Cuomo talking, Frito Cuomo, by the way, talking his nonsense. I have a couple clips I'm going to get to on that, where people just going off the hinges, folks. Keith Olbermann went off the hinges. It's amazing how deranged some of these folks are. I just don't understand it. It's ridiculous. It's either they're all in on this. Everyone in the news media is literally in on whatever darkness is happening, because I do think there's a good and a bad side to the whole thing. And I do think, again, it's all connected to space somehow, and to beings from other worlds that are controlling the narrative from their end. There might be a space war going on right now. We don't know. We really don't know. We don't know if there's maybe beings outside the planet that are controlling two different narratives, a good and a bad. I mean, why not? If some of the talk that I've heard over the years that we're an experiment by aliens, maybe there's more than one alien being. Maybe there is something interdimensional or other dimensional that has been controlling us for eons. I mean, we don't know. All I know is that we're facing scary times, folks. Scary, scary times. And right now, it's no time to be messing around. But I'll tell you this much. We're going to go on break here, and I'm going to come back with Sonia. And I'm going to ask her a few questions, and hopefully I'll get a few answers, and it'll be a lot of fun. And we're going to play a couple clips and all that good stuff. Now, one thing I do want to address before I go on break. I need everybody to set this on their calendars immediately. Go to your calendars right now and pencil this down. Okay, October 23rd through the 25th, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, well, that's my standard time. So remember, folks, this is going to be both virtual and in person. So I'm giving you a little time here to get a pencil or a pen and a pad and write this down. Alexis Park All Suite Resort, hosted by Alchemy Event. The one and only Katie Camara from Global Enlightenment Radio Network is going to be there, and she's going to speak at the Biomed Expo in Quantum Consciousness. Again, October 23rd, 24th, and 25th, coming up in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you want to watch it virtually or in person, you can do both. So if you want to do that, check this out. You go to www.biomedexpo.com. For more information, if you're in Vegas, it's going to be at the All Suite Resort, address 375 East Harmon Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89169. And again, it's going to be both in person and virtual. She's going to be there in person, and you can see her also virtually by going on the website biomedexpo.com. Tickets are available currently if you go there right now. The live streaming is about $39 per ticket. And it says New Humanity Movement and the 5D event for our planet. So check that out. The Expo Conference and professionals are consumers. And the 5D with the 5 dimension of science, consciousness, health, business, and Spirituality invites you to their 24th epic 3-day event. Medicine, Science, Technology, Consciousness, and Environment. Now, this is, they've had past events. They're going to talk about, of course, the big elephant in the room, COVID-19. It's going to be a part of the Biomed Expo following the CDC guidelines and the state of the Nevada mandate for the safe events. They do offer their best to assure that a healthy environment and protection for all attendees. As you know, that's the big elephant in the room, guys, and you will be protected. So don't worry, you're covered. Everything's going to be sanitized for your pleasure so you can enjoy it and have as much fun over in Vegas watching the event. And remember, what happens in Vegas, it stays in Vegas. Unless you don't want it to, then you totally told everybody whatever you want. It doesn't really matter at that point. It's really up to you. If you do slips, if you want to sing ships, that's your business. But until then, make sure you bookmark that again and check out the event. Again, folks, it is website. Remember, www.biomedexpo.com. And this is the Biomed Expo and Quantum Consciousness event hosted by Alchemy Event. And the one and only Katie Camara is going to be there. So we shall return with more Inside the Jackal's Head right here live on psn-radio.com, SoFlo Radio, and Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And we will return with Sonia herself. So stick around, folks.
America has become safer and stronger, with endorsements from countless veterans and first responders. Joe Biden received endorsement by Osama bin Laden after our brave warriors took him out, which Joe Biden was against doing.
What the reporting was accurate when I said I didn't say go, and I didn't.
Bin Laden wrote his plan to attack Obama to make Joe Biden president. thinking that would be enough of a U.S. disaster in and of itself, expressing Biden is totally unprepared for that post, which will lead the U.S. into crisis. Joe Biden, China's candidate, Iran's candidate, and Osama's candidate. We need a president who terrorists and tyrants fear.
I'm fighting for you, and I love doing it with everything that I have, and you know that. I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Hi, this is Chris Tillmer from Haunted Toledo.
I'm Angel from Inside the Jackal's Head and Skywatchers Radio.
I'm Brian Anderson. I'm an aviation technician and voiceover artist.
This is Deborah Jane East, host of Notes from the Underground.
I'm Ronald Murphy from Inside the Goblin Universe.
I'm Kat Ward of Paranormal Heart.
Hi, I'm Brian Bowden from Inside the Goblin Universe.
I'm Arizona Tramp from Swamp Gas.
Hey, this is Sarah Shelton from Haunted Toledo.
Hi, I'm Al Santoriga from the Bronxville Paranormal Society.
Harold St. John with the Toledo Ohio Ghost Hunters Society.
Please.
Please, while you're out there driving,
watch out for motorcycles on the road.
Be careful and watch out for motorcyclists.
And watch out for motorcycles.
Watch out for motorcyclists.
Please don't text or drink and drive.
Please don't text or drink and drive.
We've seen the aftermath of what can happen when you take your eyes off the road, even for a split second.
Please don't text or drink and drive.
Text can wait.
Be safe.
It's not just the law, it's a good idea.
Stay safe.
Have you heard Mac Maloney lately?
In your military career, did you ever see anything that came close to an unusual UFO sighting or...
No.
Holy that was the 10 seconds of no. What are you?
That was so convincing.
Yeah. What are you trying to say there?
Well, UFO is an innocuous term.
That's the worst fucking denial I've ever heard.
Unidentified flying object.
Mac Maloney's Military X-Files, Friday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern on the Public Streaming Radio Network.
Here's a riddle for you. What do the California gold rush of the 1850s, secret societies, coded messages, mysterious 19th century flying machines, and an early 20th century outside artist named Charles A.A. Delshaw all have in common? The Secrets of Delshaw by Dennis Crenshaw and Pete Navarro. Go to www.secretsofdelshaw.com to learn more.
Forget everything you think you know about myths and legends. James Pine's Big Cranky connects them all in an epic web of deceitful betrayal, love, and loyalty. A capricious tale of gods, showing human quirks are not only wasted on the mortals, a tale of many deities treading lightly around a superior as the world begins. Big Cranky, Fall into Darkness. The debut novel from storyteller James Pine, available now on Amazon from Deadlight Publishing.
Greetings. My name is Spud Goodman, and I am, in fact, a talk show host.
But the Spud Goodman Show is more than just a talk show. Spud and his temporary co-host, Gerald,
its temporary permanent co-host,
Super,
interview celebrities, welcome live musical guests, present fascinating feature segments, and take calls from an assortment of unique callers.
Should I laugh now?
And you can catch the Spud Goodman Show Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on PSN Radio.
That is messed up, yo.
Well, I was driving down I-95 the other night. Somebody nearly cut me right off the road. I decided it wasn't going to do any good to get mad, so I wrote a song about him instead. It goes like this. Were you born an asshole, or did you work at it your whole life? Either way, it worked out fine, 'cause you're an asshole tonight. Yes, you're an A-S-S-H-O-L-E, and don't you try to blame it on me. You deserve all the credit. You're life.
Must be expunged. The hate he has triggered, the Pandora's box he has opened, they will not be so easily destroyed. So, let us brace ourselves. The task is twofold. The terrorist Trump must be defeated, must be destroyed, must be devoured at the ballot box. And then he and his enablers and his supporters and his collaborators and the Mike Lees and the William Barrs and the Sean Hannitys and the Mike Pences and the Rudy Giulianis and the Kyle Rittenhouses and the Amy Coney Barretts must be prosecuted and convicted and removed from our society while we try to rebuild it and to rebuild the world Trump has nearly destroyed by turning it over to a virus. Remember it, even as we dream of a return to reality and safety and the country for which our forefathers died, that the fight is not just to win an election, but to win it by enough to chase, at least for a moment, Trump and the maggots off the stage, and then try to clean up what they left. Remember it, even though to remember it means remembering that the fight does not end November 3rd, but in many ways will only begin.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Inside the Jackal's Head. And, the song that I played there was very appropriate for the clip you just heard of Keith Olbermann calling Trump a terrorist and saying that he and everybody who pretty much endorses him is a terrorist. And that is amazing language coming from one Keith Olbermann. And we're going to discuss that in a second here as I welcome everybody back into Inside the Jackal's Head live on PSN-radio.com, Soulflow Radio, and of course the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And with me now is the one and only, the lovely... No, wait, no, she's not going to be here. I'm sorry. The very tight.
All right, I'm hanging up.
I know she doesn't sound as feminine as she should, but no, we actually don't have Sonia on the line. We have the one and only Mr. Steve Roberts. Thank you for being on, my friend. Last minute.
Well, you're welcome. What, do we just have like 17 minutes left, or what's going on?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to bring a friend on this week for the last segment of the first hour to talk a little politics, and Sonia couldn't make it on, so I was like, let me hit Steve up. I know he's always into the whole political stuff.
Well, Keith Olbermann, remind me if I'm mistaken, isn't he a sportscaster?
You would think that sports and politics just should stay away from each other.
Right.
Apparently, everybody who's in sports now is a politician. We've talked about Joe, LeBron, and as I like calling him, La China.
Uh-huh.
And how he's of course joined the China team and completely has left America for good, I hope, one day. But it seems that every sports athlete now we have is somehow into politics, and every person on ESPN is into politics. Yeah, and Keith Olbermann, once upon a moon, did sports. And he's always been annoying, but now he's going into the deep end, Steve. Deep end. Claiming that not only the president is a terrorist, but everybody, including Amy Coney Barrett, who just got appointed to the Supreme Court Justice, is an enabler and a terrorist, and they all should be expunged from society, and that all his supporters should be expunged from society. I mean, that sounds to me like Marxist Hitler language. That's genocide. That's like, what, 64 million people that voted for the president?
Yes. Well, that also included Kathy Griffith, who stood in front of the cameras with a decapitated facsimile of Donald Trump with blood dripping down the neck and the ears and eyes and nose and all that stuff. That also included her. And there's quite a few other so-called celebrities that have done this same thing the last 4 years. But, we're not supposed to notice that.
It's like the riots and the looting. It's peaceful protests.
Yes, of course. I do remember most of the 70s, all of the 80s.
Some of it is kind of foggy, I understand.
Oh, it's kind of foggy. I do remember that. There was
a good era, those two decades. They were good eras.
There was a time where people would go to a concert or something, maybe it was one of those award shows. If somebody got political, people in the audience listening to a concert would just start shouting, "Shut up and sing. Shut up and sing." And, it doesn't seem like people do that anymore. We got Taylor Swift.
Yep.
Her main listening audience is predominantly rednecks, people that love country. Not saying so much racist or anything like that, but country and western, there typically are not a whole lot of minorities that listen to that type of music. Minorities are enticed by the Democratic Party. The Latino community has a lot of its own music, and the black communities have a lot of their own music. And the Democratic Party seems to like to pander to that. That leaves a lot of people out in the cold,
I understand where you're trying to get at. I'm trying to find a way to navigate through that without sounding racist.
Yeah.
Cause I see how hard that was for you, and I completely I appreciate where you came at it. But I'll tell you this much: Taylor Swift and a lot of folks in Hollywood have completely gone off the deep end. So I don't even think it's a country music thing anymore, or even an issue of who her base is. A lot of these folks are so rich and out of touch, they don't care about their base. That's one thing.
Another group that comes to mind about 20 years back was the Dixie Chicks. Did that same type of a thing. And
but the difference is they got blackballed when they spoke up against.
I don't know if you would call it blackballed. It's just people just took their CDs and smashed them up against the walls, and they said they didn't really want to hear that.
But it was funny because they were going against Bush, right? That was the big thing.
Yes.
Dixie Chicks against Bush. Go figure. That's in itself, it's a joke. But anyway, I mean, they're just some chicks who sing. They're called the Dixie Chicks. You know, like, how much brains can really be operating that mechanism? But they were against Bush, who I'm no fan of. The funny thing is, neither is Trump, and Bush isn't a fan of Trump. And the Dixie Chicks are against Trump, and they're against Bush. I mean, they're also in the league of their own stupidity. But Taylor Swift, it's funny because I have heard her speak, and she just sounds like the same narrative that a lot of the leftists in Hollywood are spewing against the president. And it's all concocted by the media.
Sure. Bringing up the media, Angel, there have been quite a few movie stars, celebrities, and singers and stuff like that that the media has tried to set them up. Where they try to get a little soundbite. Who are you supporting in this election or whatever? And there's been a lot of people that told them to go flip themselves over, go pound sand. No, they wouldn't going to buy that kind of a thing. Correct. They weren't even going to answer that kind of stuff. I think if somebody really doesn't want to get political, they should do something like that.
But the problem I think, is money more than anything else. And also is one of these things where there's so many people within Hollywood, within the media, that are controlling the demographic of what people see. And they know that they can program the mass population by putting, of course, stuff on TV, internet, music, and that's how we've been programmed and conditioned over the last 100 years through those entertainment outlets, or as a lot of folks know it as what it is, a distraction from the reality. And people take a lot of these artists to value, like if their word means something, right? And if you condition the right artist, you have a whole base right there for you. And I think a lot of these artists are getting given so much money. They have so much power in their mind, because really it's stupid to think that if this country becomes communist, Steve, or socialist, or whatever the rabbit hole ends up in, that they're going to get to keep their money. This is how stupid these people are.
Yes.
They think that, we're going to destroy the dollar, and then we're going to be wealthy beyond our dreams. Well, stupid, you really think you're going to get to keep your money?
Well,
really
you see,
that?
that's a double-edged sword there, Angel. You see a lot of billionaires all around the world that are financing these socialist and communist movements, and these, they're also Marxist movements also. And I really have to question. I do question why they are funding these movements, because when you look at it on paper, communism is all fuzzy and fantastic for the little guy, and it supposedly is supposed to scare the billionaire away, or the millionaires, but it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be the opposite. Let's just take Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. They have been on record for quite a few years that they want a Venezuelan type of socialism. But Venezuela isn't a socialist nation. It's a communist nation.
Yeah. They don't even know the language. They don't know the language. That's the problem. They say one thing, but they don't know what it actually means.
Right. And then you have other so-called progressive leftists that point to Switzerland and Sweden as a socialist nation, and we should implement those types of economic policies. But Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, they're not really technically socialist nations. They are more free market, socialist light, if you will, type of a nation. They tax heavily, but the social programs are predominantly taken out of the middle class and the rich, and it does give a lot to the poor. Not that there's a lot of poor over in those nations, but
but also remember there are a lot smaller nations in the U.S. and they have a lot less population, a lot less issues to deal with when it comes to homelessness, crime, and we have so much happening in America. It wouldn't work
here. They've also legalized drugs over there. A lot of the nations have.
Yep.
All drugs. Mm-hmm. They've decriminalized it, legalized it, and they control the drug. You control the drug, you can control the addict. They get their methadone. They get their methadone shots every few days, or whatever the case is, and the crime is quite a bit lower.
It is because everybody's stoned. It's just the way it works. People are like, I want to go and rob somebody, but man, I'm a little too high. That last doobie was fabulous. You got a soda and some chips? That'd be great. And then that pretty much ends the robbery right there. We're about to pass, I think, a bill, Steve, in the at least they're trying to push this here in Florida. I don't know if it's going to be a federal bill, but I know here they've been talking about it for the last year to completely open and legalize the use of cannabis. And I know that they've gone on record saying that's something that might happen in the overall scheme of things. Trump hasn't really opposed it. He doesn't really care about cannabis. I don't know if I would legalize all drugs, but I think cannabis is one of those you could legalize. But my biggest agenda isn't even with the drug use or anything like that, because the drug traffic is one of the big issues concerning the issues on this planet. Is if countries start to legalize drugs, then the trafficking of drugs either goes away completely, because now you can just manufacture it in your own country. You don't have to traffic it anywhere. And that's another issue that might face the people that are, pushing drugs illegally to, want to, start more wars worldwide. I mean, who knows? But the thing I was talking about earlier on the show, and I just booked for next week Mike Rogers, who was part of the Travis Walton Experience, and Nick Redfern following him in the next week following that. And I had Steve Bassett on a couple of weeks back. And the reason I'm having a lot of these UFO guys is because I really do believe that alien disclosure is right around the corner. And I think this entire year, considering we had the Pentagon UFO footage come out, considering the turmoil the country is in, everybody fighting, everything that's going on, I think it all ties in. And Steve Bassett gave me a really interesting date. He said by April of next year, he believes disclosure will happen. And I, looking at my own research over the last few years, talking to people, reading stuff online. Of course, that's grain of salt whenever you read anything online. But seeing the climate of the planet, I don't think he's that far off. I really don't. I think you might be right on the head on this one, because remember, in this country, and particularly in this country, at least for the last couple hundred years, every first 20, 30 years of the new century, a major change happens in the country. We had the Industrial Revolution the last century, where the Wright brothers took flight. We had the World Wars. We had a lot of things that happened. The cars became more and more usable, where we weren't, in need of horse and carriages anymore. Even it makes for a good rap song, horse and carriage. But anyway, it's not good for the actual world when you can get from point A to point B a lot faster in a vehicle. So cars became more prominent, and society changed. I think that's the big change coming up, is that technology keeps expanding, and we get that disclosure moment. What do you think about that, and how it all might tie in?
Well, I'd like to digress for just a minute on the one subject you brought up just a couple of minutes ago, the marijuana, the legalization of marijuana. I recall maybe a half a dozen strains 40 years ago when I was a teenager. I think there was the Hawaiian, there was a Colombian, there was the
yes,
Afghan. I wasn't a great connoisseur, but there was only maybe a half a dozen strains back.
And you had your
ago.
your regs, as they would call it.
Yes.
Don't forget that.
Now, I believe last count, they have over 220 different strains. These are all
delicious.
Laboratory.
Oh,
yeah. They're laboratory manipulated. They're laboratory genetic strains. Who is to really say what someday they might not do to some of these strains? They've had these so-called, in air quotations, accidents that have happened. Who's to say some sort of an accident won't happen and actually marijuana could kill a lot of people someday with an accident. But it's really bugging me what they're doing. I have widely believed, and a lot of others have widely believed, that the police all over the nation run the local drug rings. The CIA runs the drugs into America. That's been practically proven for the last 30 some odd years, with all of these, these CIA personal planes crashing with 2 tons of cocaine in them, 5 tons.
Yep.
It's a joke. The CIA is called the Cocaine Import Agency. A lot of people don't even know that, but
yep. Well, back in the 80s, I mean, that was a big thing, Steve, not to cut you off, sorry about that, but I just wanted to get this point in there. Back in the 80s, I mean, there was a lot of people in the hood, as we call it, who openly said that they were pumping drugs into the hood to destroy the population. I interviewed Rick Ross, not the rapper, the real Freeway Ricky Ross, yeah. And he told me point blank that, the government was in on it. They were pumping drugs into the hood to really destroy the population of the African American. And this is something that went on for years and years. And not just the African American population, but we're talking about Latinos, minorities in general. They were really pushing to, and gearing towards those folks. And that makes sense, considering we had also crime bills that were targeted for minorities and mostly African Americans. Of course, Joe Biden led in a lot of those bills, and really tore how many hundreds of families, destroyed the black father figure in homes. And a lot of what we're seeing today, with the anger, I think, in the black community, comes because they have that lack of a father figure. A lot of folks who grew up without a father, and you want to say what you want to say, but you do need that mother and father figure in the house that are strong, that it can really, raise the child right. It's not just about popping the baby out; it's having correct, parenting to condition the child correctly. If you don't have that, you end up with what we're having now.
Yeah, let's just take the black communities as far as the father in the home, mother and father in the home. The black family that does stay together, predominantly 85% does better, and the kids are less violent. They are better citizens.
Yeah. I mean, one case is Candace Owens, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a fabulous speaker and lovely woman. She had a great family, great upbringing, and she's a very smart woman, and she knows exactly what's happening in the world. But I think that again goes what we're saying. She had a strong family unit. And there's been a destruction of the family unit in this country for years and years. And I think all that's part of some weird conditioning to really turn the planet negative and to destroy the infrastructure of what made America great.
Well, it was both Karl Marx and his co-writer of his book. I'm trying to remember his name. Engel. I think that was his name.
Engel Humperdinck? No.
Both of them wrote to first you have to destroy the family unit, then you can destroy the nation. First you destroy the family unit, then you destroy God, and then you can destroy the nation. I think that was actually their quotes back in the 1870s. They wrote that.
And how right they are, and look, it's happening now. But it doesn't shock me because, I mean, look at everything we're seeing. It's a complete play off the Marxist agenda that even Hitler was following. So this is nothing new. You destroy the God, you destroy the family figure, you destroy the infrastructure, you take away the rights to bear arms, you completely remove the environment that people are accustomed to, and you make it so that they believe that they need this change because it's so evil in the world they live in. Which, folks, we're not in if we were such a bad country before Trump and before Obama, why did so many people want to come to this country and seek asylum here? If it's such a bad place. I go back to myself, for example, Steve, because I'm Cuban by birth, and I died on the way here. I was revived, luckily enough, within about 8-10 minutes as we were landing, and I literally was out of breath, not conscious for at least maybe a good 5-8 minutes. I don't know exactly how long, but I was literally revived by paramedics as we were getting off the boat back in 1980. And this is a true story. And I luckily suffered no brain damage, even though some of my ex-girlfriends will tell you differently. But that's neither here nor there. But, we came to this country, my mother, my brother, myself, we all came to this country to seek a freedom and a difference from what we had in Cuba, which was communism. I was 1.5, almost 2 years old at the time, so I have no memory of Cuba, but I've been told what it was like and how horrible it got when socialism, communism took over. And there's no difference. The two lead to the same thing, and they all come under the same ideology. They all come at it from a Marxist view, which is something that all is going back to Hitler. See, Hitler's agenda against the Jews was, of course, to eradicate the Jews. He wanted to create a perfect race, correct? But that's his view of what he wanted to do with Marxism. Doesn't mean that it's just a white thing. Marxism could be flipped around. It could be used by Latinos, blacks, Asians, China. For example, they could use the same exact methods. Yeah, North Korea. I mean, they could use the same exact methods that Hitler used and flip it on the world. And people who might not think there's no way that could happen. Only the whites get to be communists and socialists. The rest of the world, no. They're stupid because they don't understand that's exactly what's happening. In fact, with Black Lives Matter, the organization, the creators, flat out said that they're Marxists. And there is a black woman who said it. And she said, we follow the Marxist ideology. They're Marxists.
I think it's actually been changed a few weeks back, 2 or 3 weeks back, but there was a time where you could get on your computer or your smartphone. It didn't really matter. And you could type in Antifa.com. And there's the donate button there. You would hit the donate button, and it would go directly to Joe Biden's campaign.
Hayden Biden.
Hayden Biden. Yeah. So virtually, who knows how much of that money that got donated to Antifa actually went to Joe Biden. Don't really know.
Yeah, that's correct, and that's why I've said it for a long time that I do think that he and a lot of the people that are running his campaign from behind the scenes, because he's not all there mentally, and he's up there in age. It's almost 80, if not 80 already.
78, yeah.
78, right?
Yeah.
So he's pushing 80. After 2 years, he's going to be 80, 90. I mean, he's on a. That's 10 years away, man. Not everybody makes it to 90. So, that's 12 years away from now, in 2 years. How much is going to be left?
Seen what I posted in the last 2 weeks?
Oh, there's been a lot.
About that?
Which one?
I think he's still 77, Biden, but I think if he were to be elected, he would be 78.
Yeah, he would be the oldest president ever.
He would get inaugurated, yes.
Yep.
I and a lot of people don't actually see, if he were to be elected, ever fulfilling his first term. They would force him out.
Yep.
Because he would be deemed mentally unstable or just a mental case. They would force him out, and that would put Kamala Harris as the 46th president.
Oh,
and
goodness.
Yes, that would also put
nightmare
Nancy Pelosi as vice president.
Think about that for a second. Not necessarily. Kamala could appoint a vice president, and actually, I was thinking about that earlier. And here's something that'll make you a little scared, maybe a little bit more scared than having a Nancy Pelosi as vice president. What if Kamala turns around and says, "I'm going to pick Hillary Clinton as my vice president"?
Yeah. Well, I don't think.
She
really
could.
know if,
that's part of the amendment. She can pick her own vice president. Anybody, doesn't matter who it is. And here's the worst part. If that 25th Amendment does happen, who's not to say that in about 6 months down the road, Kamala comes down with the Kung Flu or something happens, and Hillary's like, I don't think that she's fit to be president. I think I'm going to take over. And then they kick Kamala out of the house because Kamala, look, she is, for all intents and purposes, she's a unit. She's not a real person. She's as phony as they come. We know that the ones controlling the scenes, behind the scenes, have wanted Hillary in power. And I think this has to do, again, with the evil aliens against the good aliens. She, I think, is in league with the evil aliens. And Trump, I think, is in league with the good aliens. Like my good friend UFO Phil used to say, the good aliens against the bad aliens. I think that really might be happening, Steve. I think that's what the whole Space Force was about. There's a battle in space, and these people are fighting it here on the planet because either or is going to win. And I think Hillary is maybe a reptilian. What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure about a reptilian, but she might be she might be somebody that takes children and chops them up and eats them. That's been the allegation with that frazzle drip video that's supposed to be out there.
Well, they say also that she drinks the adrenochrome. Adrenochrome? Is that how you say? That's another thing. And I talked about this a few weeks back. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is really creepy shit, man. Sandra Bullock, who's, everybody knows her from Speed, the militia man. Sandra Bullock's really cute, really hot, like she's been acting since the 90s. She goes through a procedure, I don't know if you are aware of this, where they take the foreskin of the baby pee-pee when they cut the foreskin off, and they blend it, I guess, in a one of those ninja blenders type of thing. They put a lot of pee-pee in there, foreskin, they just blend it, and it gets blended up, and it becomes kind of a watery, disgusting goo. And they inject it or put it on the skin, and then they roll that goo with some kind of a mechanism into the skin of the face.
And supposedly a lot of the celebrities have been doing that.
Yeah, think about that for a second. Baby pee-pee parts on the face of celebrities. Okay, Hollywood, now you've really lost your shit. Like,
but I will address what you asked me about 10 minutes ago about the disclosure. I'm a little bit torn on that issue there. I do remember seeing one of the, I don't remember what her name is now. You can probably tell me her name. She's a woman. She's on the disclosure team with Stephen Greer. I did hear her in an interview in the early 2000s say that she worked
Linda
with
Moulton Howe?
Warner von Braun. Sorry?
It could be Linda Moulton Howe?
No.
No?
No, she worked at NASA. She worked at NASA with Warner von Braun. She did say that Warner von Braun told her that the last war was going to be an alien invasion, and it was going to be a fake alien invasion.
Mm-hmm.
You know the woman I'm talking about now?
Don't
She's
know the
still out there
woman,
on the internet a lot.
but she's still alive because, man, that was a long time ago.
Yes. I don't know if she does interviews anymore. You can Google all the team members of Stephen Greer's disclosure team, and I'll tell you her name if you can find it for me. But I do want to tell you a story also.
Well, before you get into that, that's funny because you know who also said that we were going to have a fake alien invasion?
Well, that's the people that run the. Well, go ahead. I'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah, you're probably not going to go in the same direction here. The late William Cooper, the author of Behold the Pale Horse, he wrote in the book that there's going to be a fake alien invasion, and that's how the New World Order is going to take over. Folks, we're, I think, coming up to that.
Yes. But in this dream I've only had it once. Me and quite a few other people are out in a park just doing what people do in a park, you know. We talk, walk the dogs, play with the kids. I was talking to another man. I couldn't even tell you what the conversation was, but all of a sudden out of the sky comes an alien invasion. But it's not only aliens that are firing upon everybody. It's also human. It's also a human coalition, along with the aliens, firing upon people, just blasting people away. And me and this other man, we start to run, and other people are running, and they're blowing these people away with the whatever kind of technology they have, and of course, me and this other man get away because it's my dream, and I made it up the way I wanted to. But no,
yes, in your dream, you're wearing a cape and you've got superpowers. I feel the same way.
That's right.
I can fly in my dreams. I can barely walk in real life, but I can fly in my dreams. It's funny because if you read the book and you check out the actual events that happened in Travis, going back to the Walton experience, he was, remember, when he came to, he was inside a ship after being blasted by whatever energy hit him. And what he saw were originally first the little gray guys, as he described them. And then he was led into a room, a hallway, and after that, he of course came across some, what he thought was control mechanisms of some kind, and then he saw a face of a human.
Yes.
And these humanoids, they were very human-like, like the Nordics in the Bible, or not super tall, but like random white folks, basically, in spacesuits. And he said that he felt at calm because it looked like basically normal humans had come to rescue him. He thought maybe the military had gone there and they were wearing some kind of suit for protection. He didn't know what was going on. And when I had him on originally, that was part of what he told me when he was being interviewed, that the movie got completely wrong because they didn't show that in the movie. And I think that is something that was cut out because it was too real.
Yeah.
And I think that's what exactly is going on. I think there is a kind of a human-alien cross experiment, maybe not indigenous to this planet, because, the Bible says they made us in their image, in their likeness. Well, who the heck is they?
Yeah, you certainly must remember the movie Prometheus that came out about 10 years or so ago.
Oh, yeah, of course. That was the prequel to Alien. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I think that's sort of a scenario. Another movie that came out too, it's been quite a few years back, with Gary Sinise, Mission to Mars. I think that's what that was.
That's another one, yeah.
Yes, I think those two scenarios, those two movies, have a lot more truth into them as far as disclosure than what the fantasy that they're trying to portray. There was a man, he's deceased now. His name was Jackal'S Sitchin. I'm sure you recognize that name, correct?
Oh, yeah. The 12th Planet. They beat him. Yeah. From his
Planet X. From his interpretations of the Dead Sea Scrolls, he believes that there was at least we today are at least the number third, if not the number fourth, try of a human species, going back, millions and millions of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that could be true. I think there could be an older societies, older human societies that are using all of these technologies and have had them for tens of thousands of years, if not millions of years, and these other societies could be in control, the way I believe.
Oh, I'll go a step further. We know for a fact there's been other humans, at least humanoid beings on this planet. Neanderthal men.
Yes.
We know they existed. In fact, here's the kicker. The Bible, of course, speaks of Adam and Eve, right? And I'm going to get a little biblical here on you guys. Adam and Eve, man and woman, created in their image, their likeness, right? Adam and Eve had two boys, Cain and Abel, right?
Yes.
So far, we're on the same page. Cain and Abel, one kills the other, because, Cain was more dominant than Abel, and,
right.
One had to go.
Where do we get all these societies at? Where do we get all these people from? If there was
here's the kicker. The Bible says that the gods, the children of the gods, went and mated with the women of men that were on the planet.
Yes.
Who is not to say that Cain, Adam and Eve, when they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, did not go out and start mating with the locals, which were Neanderthal. And this is what happened to the Neanderthal species, that eventually enough humans were being released from this so-called garden, which was really just a hybrid concentration scientific laboratory, and they were released to mate with humanity as they was there as Neanderthal, and they created the Homo sapiens species by allowing them to mate naturally and let evolution take its course. And the dominant species were the human hybrid that came out of this marriage. And now that started seeding the planet, and of course, over maybe 1 million, 2 million years, Neanderthal completely went and it's extinct. Maybe there was a catastrophe on the planet that the aliens had to leave. Maybe they were not aliens, but maybe they're from the inner world, and they're constantly trying to improve the genetics of humans. I mean, there's a lot of places that we can go. I mean, Dennis Crenshaw, who I haven't spoken to in a few months, is a good friend of mine. He, of course, is from the Hollow Earth Insider and Unraveling the Secrets. And we've had this conversation many, many, many times about, the possibility that the Earth is inhabited from within. And that is highly possible. It doesn't mean that the Earth is hollow. I don't exactly subscribe to that theory, but I do think there's a possibility that there could be pockets within the Earth that inhabits a lot of life.
There's a tribe in the in the Southwest. I don't remember which one it was now. Some of their historical teachings tell that there were beings that they called ant people that helped them live through the biblical flood, Noah's flood, and their name for these ant people was Anunnaki.
Yeah. Now, what do the great Indians look like to you?
Not really. I don't think that's actually a coincidence or a mistake.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, here's I mean, they can call them Anunnaki, but here's the thing. When you look at the Sumerian, the depiction of the Anunnaki is not exactly like the ant people. But, if we're talking about beings that are working in conjunction with each other, it's a very good possibility that there's a worker race that might work with a higher being of the of planet Nibiru, like a slave race, perhaps. And they are the ant people or the Greys that we see now a lot in media. Because, again, look at the big, bald, bulging eyes, the bald head. They look like ants, like gray ants.
Yes.
Some would say like praying mantis.
There's a species that... Yes, I was just going to say there's a species that looks like a praying mantis, too.
Yeah, I mean, that's another one. So, I mean, who's not to say that they did not bring these beings with them and use them as part of the slave culture that helped, coordinate the beings and are still running the experiments much after they left. Because, look, if Nibiru was a real planet that came around every 3,600 years, like Sitchin theorized, then it leads to believe that if these beings are from that planet, they would leave, and they would, leave something behind. But for the most part, not all of them, I'm sure, are going to want to stay. So they'll leave their minions to do the work for them. So when they come back around, they can, just see and check up what's going on. I think that might be what's happening. Maybe they're on their way back, and the minions have been doing their thing for the last 100 years, getting us conditioned through media, through abductions, through the language that has changed. Because remember, 500 years ago, nobody on the planet even understood what the term alien or UFO was. It didn't exist. So
correct,
what would people report? Goblins, leprechauns, creatures.
Well, they would say something like whomever was not really transported, but lifted towards the heaven by God.
That's
the way they would say it, I think.
Yeah. Well, the Tower of Babel, for example. Why did we build the Tower of Babel?
Yeah. Yes. Ascended to heaven. That was a better phrase I was looking for.
It's the same thing, yeah. I mean, right now we look at some of the abduction, and we see some people say, yeah, there was a light that carried us into the sky, and we were taken on board some ship. That sounds like the same thing.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
I think that's where isn't that where Van Daniken got his chariots of the gods?
He based it off that, the chariots of the gods, exactly. I mean, look, the term gods and God is very comical in a sense, because we're not talking about literally the God that created the entire shebang, okay?
Right.
We're talking about beings from maybe this exact dimension that live on other planets, maybe they live within our planet. Maybe they are, from a different dimension, but not the God, but they're playing God. Just like we can play God right now. We create life all the time when we hybrid something. The liger, for example, the cross between the lion and the tiger. We created that. That means we were playing God in the laboratory. We created an animal, or we said they can't technically mate, but let's genetically splice them together to see what happens. They created the liger.
Yes.
How do you think dogs got created? We bred dogs. They didn't exist. We made dogs into reality. So, and we didn't even use science. We just said, all right, we'll get a wolf and a fox, have them go do their thing, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Yes.
And that's, they didn't have laboratories back 300, 400, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. I mean, what, dogs has been around since what?
Well, think about this, though, Angel. The Bible does say that God told Noah to build the ark and bring one of each animal into the ark. Well, the Bible also tells the dimensions of the ark, and it would be virtually physically impossible to put one of each animal on an ark. But if you had the DNA of a male and a female of each animal, you could put it on that size of an ark. It would be virtually a DNA ark instead of a animal vessel.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would make more sense. It's like I don't know if you ever saw the cartoon Titan AE. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
No, you really have to check that. It's a cartoon, but you have to check it out. It's really, really brilliant. It's animated in not traditional animation. It's more like, CGI animation. But it is a fabulous futuristic movie. And it stars our favorite, Matt Damon. He does the voice of the main character, but it's really good. Yeah. Even though it's Matt Damon, he's always like lost somewhere. You notice that in his movies, he's always like left somewhere, lost by himself, and he's got to be rescued.
You talking about the Bourne?
The Bourne movies? The Bourne guy, yeah. Every movie he's lost. I mean, we have to rescue Matt Damon. Every movie.
How did I kill those 6 men? I don't know how I did that.
It's boggling the mind. But anyway, in Titan AE, the whole purpose is that the planet's going to like shit, niche. It's going to poo-poo, like the way it's happening now. And it's a point of no return. And what they did is they created this ship that has all the DNA of every species that ever lived on the planet. And it's going into deep space to find a perfect habitable zone. And the ship is geared to become another world. The technology was found on how they could actually grow that ship and create another planet on a habitable zone and use all the DNA that's in there to create and recreate life as we had it here on Earth. So it's really the Titan AE. The AE is after Earth. And it's a brilliantly, scripted movie. For a cartoon, it's mind-boggling how well thought out this movie is. It's one of those things, I guess, when they made it, technology wasn't yet pushing to the point where they could probably do a lot of this stuff in live action. Because there's a little bit mixing and blending of the way the CGI and the animation is done, where you could get away with it when it was done, I think it was like 15 years ago or something like that. Which now would be a lot easier since we've technologically come a lot more advanced in the CGI world. But for its time period, might be a little bit longer than 15, maybe even 20 years ago. But for when it came out, it was a really, really well-scripted movie. And it's one of those underrated films that people just overlook for some reason. I think it's because it's animation. But when you study the logic behind it, we're going to probably have to do that one day. And who's not to say that it didn't happen already here? And that's how we got here.
Yeah.
Maybe Titan BC or BE, before Earth,
Right. Well, the governments all over the world and the control system are trying to, they allege that there are 7.7 billion people on the planet today. They also allege that by the time 2030 rolls around, there's going to be 9 billion people if they don't do something about it, like Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci and some of their ilk.
Yeah.
But I've talked to other people, and a lot of people out there do believe that the actual number is probably closer between 4.5 and 5 billion people. It's already been statistically proven that all of the Earth's everybody on the planet, whether it's 7.7 billion people or 4.5 billion people, everyone could comfortably live in the state of Texas with 1 acre of land. You know, Alaska is even bigger than Texas. Somebody could probably, we could probably have 2 acres of land if there was 7.7 billion people in Alaska, and we could still live comfortably. We wouldn't be crowded like people are in big cities. You know, I nobody can pay me enough money to live in a big city. I live in a small town. It's about 12,000 people. I used to joke, and a lot of people joked, "Oh man, I hate this little town." And you'd ask why? It's so small. But now, a couple of years back, I posted on Facebook. It's just, I love this town now. And somebody will ask why? Because it's so small. And that's the way I feel about it. I don't. The more I get along with a lot of people, the more I meet a lot of people, you know, the more I want to go out in the woods, Angel, and just live off the land.
Yeah, it happens to me too. Let me tell you, the older I get, the more I reject the fact that I live in Miami, and I'm like, you know, I wish I lived somewhere completely away from the way society is down here. And it scares me because if something happens, Steve, and say there's a big war or something hits the ocean, I mean, Florida is, you know, a hurricane away from being destroyed. I mean, just that alone, it's scary. And I live really near the Keys, so, you know.
One tsunami away from, you know, how many people being washed away?
Yeah,
20 million?
Yeah.
30 million?
Yeah. Think about that.
Well, just look at the entire East Coast. One tsunami away from killing probably 100 million people. Washing away 100 million people. One single tsunami.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel it. I mean, like I said, I live about 30, 40 minutes from the Keys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right there. So one good tsunami and my entire neighborhood's gone. Yeah. I saw it happen. I saw it with Hurricane Andrew in 92 where a lot of Miami just got wiped out. And I was amazed back then. And we were able to recover, thankfully. But I don't know if that recovery will be as swift as something really major happens that takes out
Andrew,
all of South Florida.
That was in what? That was in 2001, wasn't it?
No, Andrew was in 1992.
Oh, it's been that long ago.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Time flies when you're not having any fun.
I actually, I delivered 2 or 3 travel trailers down there because FEMA had set up places all over the place down in there too. I have the single largest RV manufacturing facilities, many companies, over 200 of them, within a 30-mile radius of me. And they got a lot of contracts for a lot of the hurricanes down there. A lot of people's homes were destroyed and washed away, and they had to live in travel trailers for a while and until they got their homes rebuilt, you know?
Yeah. Trust me, I know. My brother's apartment, the entire roof came down on him. And we saw so many homes just destroyed, businesses, RVs. I mean, I remember spending Andrew in FIU, the Florida International University, for those who don't know what FIU is. And we had, we were all terrified because I'd never gone through a major hurricane before. My family was terrified, but we were all there just watching everything happen. And I was, I was a kid. I was kind of curious. I went and opened the doors to go outside and to kind of see it, really experience it. Little did I know that was a bad idea because I could have just been flown away into the wind. But luckily that didn't happen. I opened the door, and as soon as I opened the door, and mind you, we're on the second or third floor. I can't remember which second or third floor, but it wasn't the first floor. And I opened up the door to go outside for like a few minutes, and the first thing I see is a car flying in front of me. I'm like, oh, look at that. That car just flipped over and just flew right in front of me. I never thought I'd see that. I saw benches just flying all over the place. I mean, it was a scary moment. I mean, if you think about it, you talk about the Bible, and we go back to religion, we see all the tales of the floods and everything that happened to these people and how they all wrote about, these tremendous floods. And really, they're experiencing just what we experience now. It's just they didn't have the internet or the TV or the media to explain it. There's a big storm coming. Be careful. And they all wrote about it as this major catastrophe because that's kind of all they knew. And one of these things came by and completely wiped out villages. Why? Because these are places that were not exactly built to scale. I mean, they didn't have Trump doing the architecture, back then. Yep. So, wasn't the sturdiest of things. Unless you had a pyramid, you probably were kind of screwed.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a clue what's supposed to be coming, but one of the networks I'm on is over there in Ireland, as you know. We had a former host. He had left the network, and he had been away maybe a year and a half. And he messaged me on Skype, and he said he wanted to talk. So he called me, and we talked for about half hour, 45 minutes, and what he ended up doing was he pretty much left society, and he went to study to be a shaman. I don't really know which practice it was, but I know that there's plenty of shamans in all the practices or whatever. But he called me 18 months later, and he said, Stephen, you need to get out of America. There's something very dark coming. And he didn't really know what the darkness was, but he couldn't explain it. All he knew that he could see it in his visions. And I've heard this from other people too. That was around early 2015 when he called. Within a year to a year and a half is when we started dealing with all of this stuff that we're dealing with.
Yep. And he's absolutely right. I mean, Steve, look, I'm going to play an audio clip, but I want you to listen to this. Okay. It's short, but I want to get your input on it because this is the darkness I think that we're seeing. And I think he's absolutely right. I think that there is a darkness that's happening in this country. Art Bell talked about something very similar when he said the veil was dropping in. I think what he meant by that wasn't just an interdimensional or otherworldly thing. I think there is an evil that is dropping in, and that is something that is taking over not just this country but the planet. We're seeing destruction of people's lives, buildings, evil language constantly everywhere. I mean, where have you ever heard something like this, for example? Listen to this.
Can be and must be expunged. The hate he has triggered, the Pandora's box he has opened, they will not be so easily destroyed. So, let us brace ourselves. The task is twofold. The terrorist Trump must be defeated, must be destroyed, must be devoured at the ballot box. And then he and his enablers and his supporters and his collaborators and the Mike Lees and the William Barrs and the Sean Hannitys and the Mike Pences and the Rudy Giulianis and the Kyle Rittenhouses and the Amy Coney Barretts must be prosecuted and convicted and removed from our society while we try to rebuild it and to rebuild the world Trump has nearly destroyed by turning it over to a virus. Remember it, even as we dream of a return to reality and safety and the country for which our forefathers died, that the fight is not just to win an election, but to win it by enough to chase, at least for a moment, Trump and the maggots off the stage and then try to clean up what they left. Remember it, even though to remember it means remembering that the fight does not end November 3rd, but in many ways will only begin.
Now, to me, that's a threat. That's Keith Olbermann, and I played that earlier, and I wanted you to hear it. Because not only is he making a threat at the end, because it doesn't just end on November 3rd, he said it, it's only the beginning. That's a major threat to begin with. Second of all...
They've already threatened.
Yeah, this has been happening. It's a pattern.
Whether
Michelle Obama did it.
Whether they win or lose, they're going to burn America.
Yeah.
They're going to burn this country. They're going to riot. It's going to be like the late 60s again. I mean, that's virtually what they want. They want the late 60s, the rioting and the mass hysteria. That's virtually what they want.
Oh, this is even worse than the 60s. I mean, this is going back again to the Hitler-esque days where they remove everything that we have known as a normal society, and they flip it on its head. And then what they do, they take away your rights. They go in and take away your freedoms. They go in and destroy the economy. They go in and destroy your privileges. Your ability to go and do anything without the government being in everything up your ass. Just think about that. If you think it's bad now, it's going to get worse.
All communist nations have. That's what they've done. First, they've disarmed the nation. First, they've disarmed the nation, and then they've destroyed the nation.
Yeah.
You can't destroy a nation without disarming it first.
That's why they want to remove the amendment. That's why they want to get rid of guns. Yeah. You unarm the population, and they're yours. They're led to the slaughter easily.
You know, the FBI virtually has no clue how many guns are here in America. They actually theorize legal guns. This is legal guns, not even illegal ones. They actually theorize between 85 and 90 million legal gun owners with between 350 and 400 million guns. That's a lot of guns, a lot of gun owners, a lot of good old boys.
Yeah.
That don't really want this shit.
Yeah, no kidding. Speaking of good old boys, in that clip, I don't know if you heard the name Kyle Rittenhouse, which is the teenager from Konisha who, this is the most idiotic thing. They're making this kid out to be like an evil KKK neo-Nazi, and we've talked about this in private, and I've dealt with this before on the show. This is part of that evil, where they're literally defending one of the guys who got shot, who was a racist, who was a child molester, had actually 5 cases of pedophilia where he raped children under the age of 13, okay? He was a bad guy. This guy was chasing an underage kid who was there to help the community with a bunch of other schoolmates, and they were there to help keep the calm. They were like cleaning graffiti earlier. He was trained as a paramedic. People are like, well, why do you have a gun? Well, you idiot. Other people were there with guns. You think he's not going to be smart enough to have some protection if he's going to go and do something like that? Now they're like, well, what was there to begin with? Well, why were the rioters there to begin with? Why were the looters there to begin with? He's there because he's a kid who, in his heart, he feels like this is something he wanted to do. He had worked for paramedics in the past. He had been training with paramedics. He's into law enforcement. By all accounts, a good, decent kid. But because he does something right, it flips on him. These people were chasing him. They were trying to kill him. He defended himself. Now, all of a sudden, there's a neo-Nazi. And the guy he killed was a racist child molester. And they're making this other guy, Rosenbaum, to be a hero.
Yeah. One of the guys.
That's the society we're in. It's crazy.
One of the guys was an abuser. Beat all of his girlfriends and his wife or something like that.
Yeah.
Was it one of them?
Yeah, that was the other guy who died, and then there was the guy who got his arm almost blown off, who also had a criminal record, long history of criminal activity, and he said that he wished he would have killed Kyle. And yet they're talking about this guy like he's some kind of a martyr. Are you kidding me? These are criminals who went out to kill a 17-year-old who's there voluntarily trying to help. In fact, earlier in some of the footage, they actually shows him helping a member of Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
And he was helping them because they got injured. So he wasn't trying to play any race card or any part of the scenery. He was there on some legit, just innocent, helping the community and trying to make sure people didn't hurt themselves. And now he's in some deep waters. And I hope that, they completely expunge his record and that he gets, charges dropped and he's able to sue a lot of these people. Yeah, exonerated. But, the most important thing is that I hope that he goes and sues some of these people that are completely just trying to destroy his name, like Nick Swardman or Sandman or whatever that other kid's name is who was a Trump supporter. He cashed in a couple $100 million. Pretty good for being called a race. Yeah. I think it was CNN who settled out of court with him or something for like a couple $100 million.
Oh, the young guy that stood in front of the Indian. Is that what you're talking about?
That's the one, yeah. Okay. Nick Sandman or Swardman or Samson?
Yeah, something
I don't know.
Like that, yeah.
Swappy, sloppy, slappity, slippery.
Did he get a pretty big settlement from them?
Oh, man, it was beautiful. I mean, that kid's done for life. I mean, he's good. Unless, of course, they destroy the U.S. dollar, and then it's, worthless, and he's back to the poorhouse.
Well, I got a feeling that's not going to be if. It's when.
Yeah, that's sad but true. Listen, I'm almost out of time here, and I thank you for being on here with me. And last minute, really last minute, you're always a gracious human being for doing your part here. And also, thank you in person or live on Skype on the show for becoming a Patreon of ours here and joining the Patreon page. Yeah. Thank you so much. You're an Area 53 supporter now, and that is high up there, guys. You're deep in the jungle, in the rabbit hole.
Well, you're welcome.
No, it means a lot. And, of course, I'm trying to, get that as known as possible to all the listeners who are both listening live and on the podcast. Again, it's easy to find on angelespino.com. If you notice, I put on the right-hand side on the very top of Patreon icon on there, so easy to click on. But I meant it from the bottom of the heart. Thank you for joining the Patreon. It means a lot to me.
Well, I do have to tell you one thing. I do know for a fact there's a group out there called BBS Radio. Mm-hmm. And there's another group out there, too. It's been about 4 years back. I was on both of them networks. It was $100 a month. And I only had 4 hours a month, 1 hour a week. That's all, allegedly they had thousands and thousands of listeners, but, it got to be too taxing and it got to be too much, so I had to drop both of the networks. I've always been glad to be on your network since I've been there.
And we've always loved having you on, and you've been on now on PSN for a while too. You've been one of our long-lasting hosts. Yeah. What's going on a decade pretty soon? Huh? Look at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming and asking me on.
Now, are you going to do anything live coming up here soon? What's going on with your show? Tell the audience how the hours and where they can listen to you.
Well, I'm only on 1 hour a week, Tuesdays. Actually, 2 hours from Tuesdays from 4 to 6 Eastern. 4 to 6 Eastern. I got a couple of very good guests on. One's a Canadian, Ron Stevens, and the other is an American, Roger Landry. Roger Landry has the Liberty Beacon Network. And he's a good guy. Both of them are actually very good guys, and they all have their own shows, and I'm going to talk to them on Tuesday. So,
well, hopefully it goes well, and I'll be listening in. And for anybody who wants to check out that, please bookmark it Tuesday and be there for our good friend here, Steve Roberts, who again is a very lovely human being and does not sound like Sonia at all.
And I don't look like her either, I'll bet.
No. But shout outs to her. I mean, she was, gracious enough to let me know about 20 minutes after the show. Would have been nice to know sooner, but she couldn't make it on. But again, thank you for being here. And we have the ever so lovely himself, Kaiser, with Kaiser Talk Radio coming up. He's going to beat me up for saying that, by the way. I think I'm about to get shot tonight for saying he's very lovely, because I don't think that's up his alley.
All right.
But thank you, my friend, and we'll be talking again soon to get you back on here as we creep up to this terrible election coming up on November 3rd, which could either spell disaster or, well, maybe make America great again. Or maybe we're going to see the aliens finally come down like Steve Bassett told us a few weeks ago. Or maybe, just maybe, it's all a bunch of nonsense. And nothing's going to happen, and Trump will win, and the world will go back to normal, and Nancy Pelosi will go to prison, which will be the best thing ever possible. If life could only be so good. Well, we could have a Nancy Pelosi in prison, where we could have a Adam Schiff in prison, where we could have normal human interaction again. We could have a society free of stupidity and a nation that gets along and no more riots and looting. And aliens, yeah, they can come down, but don't be scary. We don't need you to scare the pants out of everybody. I think that what Travis and I spoke about a long time ago, where they possibly didn't want to hurt him or kill him, but they took him because they had accidentally hurt him, and maybe, just maybe, they're not bad guys after all out there, and they're looking out for us. And maybe, just maybe, as Steve Bassett said, we will get disclosure. And maybe, just maybe, we'll all open our eyes and have an open mind, like my good friend Alejandro Rojas says on Open Minds Radio and TV. And maybe, just maybe, the world will be a better place come 2021, because 2020 has been the pits. Jesus. But look, guys, we have a lot of show coming up here. Again, Kaiser's Talk Radio and the great Lionheart himself, Mitchell Nicholas Gerber, with Unleashed Truth Radio coming up after that. Until then, I want to say thank you all for listening in, being part of the show, and tuning in every single week. I'm going to be back on Thursday at 10 p.m. this week, and again next Sunday with the great Michael Heston Rogers, who again was one of the gentlemen in the crew that was working alongside with Travis Walton. And today, later on, coming up, well, in about a minute, it'll be later on, I will be joining him at 11 for a recording on his show, which I'm very excited to be a part of. So, guys, until then, stick around. There's going to be more on the network coming up with Kaiser in a few minutes. So, this is Inside the Jackal's Head. I am Angel Espino, and I bid you all good evening, farewell, good night, as Wiedersehen, and please stay safe, stay sound, COVID-free, and come back on Thursday night and listen to more of me. Talk to you then, folks.
hospital with my son for 18 months.
When he got injured, I wasn't prepared, but I knew I had to be strong.
When I was told about John's injury, I was in complete shock. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For thousands of severely injured veterans, everyday life is filled with barriers.
It was really the little things throughout the house. Counters that you can't roll up to. I had to drag my wheelchair down steps.
I want to help, but he is so determined.
At Homes for Our Troops, we build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and automatic door openers that allow them to function independently and focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
This house has given me my family back.
To learn more, visit hfotusa.org.
We're searching for a way to live life beyond the mask. If you have symptoms and test positive for COVID-19, a clinical research study may be your opportunity to help find a treatment. Talk to your doctor and visit studyforcovid.com to learn more.
Kamala Harris ran for president by rushing to the radical left, embracing Bernie's plan for socialized medicine, calling for trillions in new taxes, attacking Joe Biden for racist policies. Voters rejected Harris. They smartly spotted a phony. But not Joe Biden. He's not that smart. Biden calls himself a transition candidate. He is handing over the reins to Kamala while they jointly embrace the radical left. Slow Joe and phony Kamala. Perfect together. Wrong for America.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Hey, folks. Thank you for stopping by Kaiser's Castle. Grab yourself your coffee, tea, soda, or adult libation, whatever you see fit, while you're hanging on my big orange couch today. And I have a pleasureful thing to announce tonight that everybody knows I like to hang in the boiler room. That's where good ideas and good thought processes are born every day. And what is that I hear right now? I think there's a ruckus among us. How you doing there, Ruckus, brother?
Yes, there's a ruckus among us, or among you. Hi, Kaiser. Thanks for lowering the drawbridge and inviting me to the castle.
You're more than welcome, brother. It's always a joy to talk with you whenever we can. Hey, now this is Shocktober, where we're going to tell some scary stories, maybe. We might tell some legends. We might even discuss, who knows, but I'm sure it'll be on the paranormal, or this hangs right in with what the normal programming is here on PSN. The paranormal, the ghost, the aliens. When we won't know where we're going to go tonight until we go there. With that being said, Adam, do you have anything that tickled your fancy today, or any wives' tales, whatever, local lore?
No, not necessarily. I must admit you caught me a little off guard with the topic because it's not my particular specialty. But 'tis the season for the scary stuff. It just doesn't seem like it currently. I think right now the world is such a scary enough place in real life that I don't know. I'm a little put off by the concept of Halloween and scary stuff this year, and I just wonder how other people feel about that. I think the scariest thing this year is going to be how people deal with the holiday, But full confession, Kaiser, believe it or not, I mean, because I know so many, like countless numbers of people have had quote-unquote experiences of some sort with supernatural, albeit ghosts or creatures like Bigfoot or alien UFO sightings. Me? No, not really. I mean, I have like a couple stories from when I was a kid that I don't necessarily trust my own senses, and but I've never had like an honest to goodness experience that I've talked to so many people who have, though. I feel like I'm some sort of strange mutant just because I've never seen a ghost or a UFO or talked to Bigfoot,
No, I get that totally, brother. I mean, I'm not stressed over that. But there's got to be some lore, something local, somewhere you've lived where you've heard spooky tales of woe.
Well, again, no, not really. Although when I did move, I'm originally from New Hampshire, so, and I was raised in the woods, so, I think that maybe might toughen a kid up or something, because I notice a lot of horror movies, people in general are scared of the unknown woods, and I'm just like, man, I love to go out in the woods and just be alone with nature, it's not scary at all. But they can make whole movies about it, like Blair Witch Project, and it's just like, oh, it's so scary, it's the woods, ooh, bad woods, bring me back home safe to the comforts of the big city, please. But when I moved to New Mexico, I did learn for the first time ever about something called La Llorona. La Llorona? Very hard to say.
La Llorona.
You've heard of that, right?
No, it's like Llorona. Llorona.
Llorona.
Right?
Yeah, it's like two L's.
Yeah. Yeah, Llorona, like the crier.
Yeah. This tale of this witch woman who apparently drowned her children or something. I forget the actual origin of it, but she's a spirit that will haunt. I guess it's a popular tale in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, which is why I learned about it out here in New Mexico. But it involves the fact that you can hear this woman crying late at night, and the parents of children apparently would scare the crap out of kids with this story to kind of try to, like, it was one of those morality tales kind of thing, like, don't go out late at night, don't go to strange places, don't do this, don't do that. They could basically say anything they want, like, oh, you shouldn't lie to your sister, little Billy, or La Llorona is going to get you, or something like that. So, yeah, that's the only legend I've heard of out here is La Llorona. I've hung out late night drinking with people, and they'll hear like weird noises, like a coyote call or something, and they'll like get all hushed and be like, and they'll make a joke how it's La Llorona. And I'm like, whoa, what is that? So I think it has an effect on them culturally, but obviously not me personally.
Right. That sounds like the El Chupacabra that they have in Spanish lore or Latino lore. Where I don't know really how to describe it, but the creature is supposedly looks almost like a monkey or a monkey lizard or something, by the way I've seen the drawings of it. Like I said, I've never seen anything like that. The stuff I've seen has been a pseudo ghost thing that I'll talk about on Because Angel luckily was producer for Art Bell and he captured it. So that's a treat for Halloween. But I will say this, I was nervous. I was talking to Art Bell for the first time, and I didn't really know the words at that time to explain it to him. And I said it the best I could, but I've come up with a better way to explain what I saw. And also, you're talking to somebody, you got a few minutes, so you try to get it done as quickly and succinctly as you can. And I did that. And the other one was a large, and everybody, if you've not listened to Alternative Current Radio, you need to listen to it because he had a whole few episodes on bugs, and I saw the largest roach. I've never heard of one bigger. But I almost got in trouble for it, for how I exterminated it. But that was on Okinawa, Japan, where I saw that. And I don't know if people would be interested in it. It's kind of buggy. Maybe you'd be interested in it, brother.
How big was it?
Thing, honest to God, was the length. It was underneath and they had these old barracks that used to have a kitchen on the end of every barracks. And Camp Kinzer is on Okinawa, Japan. And it's right before you get to the capital city called Naha. And right off, if you're coming from Kadena, right to the right of it. And there was a roach, and I'm not joking, the size of like a cat. And, but, lengthwise,
that's a
not
freaking
height.
mutant. That's not a roach. That's not normal.
No, it was a roach. And when they pulled the roach away because of the drippings over I don't know how long the damn thing was living. But yeah, there it was. And so they called, instead of calling the exterminator on base, I still have no idea why they didn't do that. They called the military police. So I showed up. I mean, this is fact. It's historical fact. I'm the idiot that showed up. And I'm just like, all right, everybody out of here. Next thing I hear is a pow from my 45. And I just put a bullet through it, and that was it. It was the end of it. So, but I got in a lot of shit over that, man. I thought I was going to do, but nobody got hurt, no ricochets. So they just said, you don't talk about it.
Did you giant roach guts everywhere? Like, did that happen?
Oh, it kind of splattered a little bit. But roaches, their exoskeletons, surprisingly resilient. That's a fact.
Well, they did say that once the Earth goes into full, the toilet, the only thing that's going to be left are the roaches. I believe that.
Yeah, there's this running meme or idea that cockroaches would somehow magically survive like nuclear fallout, and I'm not necessarily sure there's scientific evidence of that.
Well, there's a book out called Would Insects Inherit the Earth? It's one of the books you have to read if you're going through emergency management school. And they dispel a lot of those myths. I can't think of the author, and the book is in storage because I have my Conex box, and everything that I use when I teach people stuff, I keep in a Conex box. And there's a bunch of boxes in the back, and those boxes contain they're just like legal boxes. All the teaching literature and stuff I've learned over the years. But yeah, the hold on, I can tell you right now. Let me just type that up. You guys run with something real quick, and I will tell you who wrote Would Insects Inherit the Earth in about 3 or 4 seconds, because Google is my friend at this point.
I bet you it was the creator of Taco Bell who said that. Because that's where the meat comes from, roaches.
Oh, lordy. Might as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Actually, Angel, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's an alarming trend towards where a lot of these world elite types would really love to offer us eating bugs as a solution to potential food shortages coming in the future.
Oh, I got one worse for you. There's a scientist who already came up with a method to take, this is going to be kind of gross, enzymes from human poo that contains cow meat enzymes, and if he collects enough of these enzymes, he can literally recreate the meat that's been digested and pooped out and recreate meat again from that and serve it as a hamburger, steak, or whatever.
Yes, I found the book, and the book is
let that sink in for a second. You missed that part, Kaiser. It's pretty gross, but let that sink in for a minute, Ruckus. Yes, he was a Chinese scientist who came up with that, by the way, because they love us. They want to feed us our own poop now.
Yes, I heard that. That's just disgusting. And I was talking about it when,
pretty gross.
Yeah, I was talking the other day while Ruckus' show was going on with somebody, and I said in Germany I was quite shocked that they had bugs for sale at the grocery store. So that's a no bullshit story. But anyways, would insects inherit the earth? And that's
no bullshit.
Concerning those, and anyway. Other subjects of concern to those who worry about nuclear war. By Jack C. Green, compiler, and Daniel J. Storm, compiler. I see used paperbacks There's 7 of them, $17.61. But the normal paperbacks and the mass market paperbacks, normal paperbacks are $70 to $890. Mass market paperbacks are going for $26.04 to 93.35 cents. So 930, I'm sorry, 0.35 cents. So damn, I got gold in my damn Konex box.
Yeah,
Still
like, so what you're saying is if you find a copy of this somewhere, folks, at a yard sale or a thrift store, snatch it up.
Snatch it up. But yeah, I'm just looking on Amazon right now. So, but anyway, so like you said, it does dispel some of those myths. And honestly, it kind of coincides with what you were talking about earlier there, Ruckus, which is why there's always a ruckus among us, because you make the mind think. There was something that I looked at a while back with the mask thing. You know, what's scary about the mask thing? Well, it's because of the fear porn the government is putting on us. No matter what you think and where you think this is coming from, I think it's a plot to get rid of our president, but that's my own opinion. You don't have to share it, and I'm sure Angel would agree with me on that one. But the problem is, you know, making people drones, faceless drones, you know, where you get a lot of detail from somebody's facial reactions while you're talking to them. And that tells you, if you're an interviewer or you're talking to people professionally for a while, because that's your job, you do get a lot of clues from the face. And just normally, if there's a fight to develop, you see people grooming in certain ways. Grooming means, you know, moving their hair around, stroking their mustache, their beard. You know, how do you deal with it when all of a sudden somebody's got a mask on? They're not able to do a normal key to attack feature. Instead, they're dicking around with their mask. Because there was a nurse, I believe, a while back. You might remember this, Ruckus. She did a video. It was on YouTube, too, where she put paint on her fingers or some sort of dye or whatever it was. And she uses her cell phone, shows everybody how much, you know, the paint gets on the cell phone and gets on the face from the cell phone. Shows everybody how much people normally jerk with their mask, including doctors and nurses, you know, because she was a nurse, and just demonstrates how much you're actually touching. And the best thing was to wash your hands. And your thoughts on that one, brother?
Oh, absolutely. I used to be quite a germaphobe, this is totally crazy. But until the current virus that we're facing as a world this year, I used to be quite a bit concerned about germs, like more so than the average bear, as it were. And I was the guy who would already, like, if there would be certain items that I would purchase from the store, I would rinse off the cans with, you know, some hot water first. Or, you know, I would always make sure that anything coming inside my house was sterilized if necessary. I wouldn't go overboard and spray everything down with disinfectant or whatever. But I also try to keep a very clean space and a clean house and keep everything clean. I used to work in restaurants, so I had it drilled in me over and over again, the importance of preventing cross-contamination. So I remembered that, which is exactly what that nurse demonstrated. It's very simple, quick, easy cross-contamination. Everything we touch is transferring germs back and forth, basically. Like, you know, so great, you go wash your hands, and then you go pick up your cell phone, which you have not cleaned or disinfected since, you know, you've owned it for a year, and you take it with you everywhere, inside the restaurant, inside the bathroom. You know, wash your hands all you want, but those germs and everything are now still on that phone. You know what I mean? So you got to, like, when we worked at restaurants, like, say, at a grill, you know, I would have to literally fire people because they just couldn't understand this simple concept. Like, you use this one hand or the gloved hand on the spatula. You don't cross-contaminate between meat. You don't cut meat in the same space or on the same cutting board or counter as you do your vegetables, because cross-contamination can get people sick. Until the recent pandemic, the number one cause of illness or hospital admissions in America is actually related to foodborne illnesses, because we're basically consuming germs because we didn't cook the food long enough to kill off the germs, or maybe we weren't keeping it in the refrigerator and it grew some extra germs, So people just are not careful in general. So it's a joke to me that the CDC or the WHO or your local mayor or your governor or whoever is going to think that the general American, all of us are going to be able to handle safely like a mask and keep it sterile and clean. All the doctors came out right away and said, hey, you know what? These masks are great and all, but the thing is, you people don't know how to use them properly. And everyone was obsessed with one particular mask in when this started. Which one was that? The N95 mask?
95, yes. Yes, that's exactly it.
And apparently, to use those properly, like in the health profession, industry, you need to be form-fitted for those. They need to be professionally adjusted. You need to know what the heck you're doing. It's not a just run out to the store, try it, and buy it, one-size-fits-all solution for everybody,
And they don't tell you that, like on the N95 mask, there's a shelf life. It's just no different than the military mask that I was issued. You have to be test fitted. When I was an iron worker, if we were welding on, there's a coating they put over steel. It's usually on chain link fences. And anyways, if you're welding on it, you can get sick. Like the only cure for it, believe it or not, are just like flash burned. If you're flash burned in the eyes from welding, you use potatoes, cut one in half, put one over each eye, and you'll be fine the next day. If you weld on this material, chain link fences, they normally have a coating. It's a white looking coating. You'll find it on some metals. If you weld on it and you inhale it, milk is like the only cure it's like a flu that you get. I can't think of the name of the coating for the still. Sorry, man. It's been so long. It's been I got done doing that in 2000, or 99, I'm sorry. So I wish I could remember. Chain link fences are commonly coated with the same crap. I can't think of it. It's an anti-rust material. It'll come to me, just not right now. But yeah, man, I mean, but we had to use those if we were welding that. And the reality is, because the smoke, if you breathed it in, it would get you sick. And I can't believe I can't remember the name of that crap. But yeah, man, I mean, that's just
It's a good point, though. That's what those masks are intended for. That will help in those types of things, to help with like certain droplets, like when you're using spray paints and chemicals and things like that. That's not really meant necessarily to help prevent the spread of a virus.
Oh yeah, and the mask that they're using now is more to protect other people, not yourself. And these people that are Karens, that's something I don't think I've touched. I think we should be more afraid of the Karens and the Kens that go around and try to dictate to others or look down on them if they're not wearing a mask, which I've not worn one since this bullshit started, because it's useless. And they're just so ignorant. And I see a lot of similarities between the people who would denounce people to the Nazis and the people that would denounce people to the Stasi. It's the same fucking thing, man. You're not doing what the government said. I'm going to tell the government. That kind of crap. Your thoughts?
Well, excuse me. All of this is motivated by one common element, and it's actually directly related, I guess, to what I was talking about when I first came on. And why I guess I'm not so big on Halloween this year is I understand much far more so now than ever before, but I already had a grasp on the concept of fear when it pertains to being used against people to control them. Fear is a powerful emotion, and a lot of I don't know. I don't want to blame any, like, the government or anything like that, or the secret societies or anything like that. But regardless, the media and politicians and governments all across the world throughout history have known that fear is one of the easiest ways to control people. And they have not been afraid to do so for a very long time. And I think they really upped the ante this year in particular. But yeah, people are afraid of bugs. Let's push them with some bug stories. You know, people are afraid of viruses. Oh, well, those people are real easy to scare real quick. We'll just tell them boo, you know, and they'll be like, oh, you know, I don't know.
Well, it's just like back in the 70s. I don't know if you remember any of these shows from back in your day, but they had at the drive-in movies in the 70s. One of them, and of course they're all 70s message movies, but Squirm, it was about worms coming out of the faucets and shit. They were going to get you. Empire of the Ants. That was another weird little 70s movie. Tarantula. Snakes on a Plane. That's a little more updated. I think that came out in the 90s. Another big one was Jaws. Jaws 1, 2, and 3. You know, it's a consistent thing. Hollywood has, and I think you and I both know, you know, how Hollywood is run, and I think even Angel does, especially. He's a big movie aficionado. And it's the same kind of thing. They use fear. There's an old adage, hard men come from hard times, and they bring good times. And good times build soft men. And I think during the 60s, end of the 60s, the 70s, the 70s kind of, because we still had the looming fear of nuclear war, the 80s, and by the time the wall fell in Germany, it gave us a false sense of security and a lack of fear, and everybody just became soft. And of course, the internet helped to make people soft with anonymity, where I could say anything I wanted to you without risking ruckus, making a ruckus on my face, and punching me in my nose if I pissed him off. You know, because I'm 3,000-4,000 miles away from you, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, I think that these types of things are what and how the government mechanizes the fear tactics. And I did work for the government, full disclosure, you know that, and Angel knows that, and I think everybody on the show knows that. And I do know that fear can be a powerful motivator. Trust me on that one. Your thoughts, man?
Well, I used to be a very, very big horror movie fan. I'm not anymore. But I find it interesting that we can sit down and consume these horrible images and subjecting ourselves to psychological torture, as it were, all in the name of entertainment, to sit down and watch a good scary movie. And, you know, in general, who doesn't like a good scary movie? That's, you know, we all do, or at some point we do. But why? What on earth? Why on earth would this be a thing? You know, if fear, when we encounter danger, if that's going to instill the fight or flight response, how does that affect us psychologically in our brains when we're experiencing the fear, but we're like strapped down in a chair, as it were, or sitting in a theater with a whole bunch of other people, and we know that what we're watching is fake, so we feel safe. So it's almost like our body does not necessarily go into that mode, but somewhere subconsciously our brain is, but we're comforted knowing that we don't really have to fight. We don't really have to flight right now. And I think it's really screwing with some wiring that's already a natural part of us as a species, as it were. And I think that horror movies and scaring people to death and this Halloween and this death culture and all of this terrible fear porn, and I think it's really doing some horrible things to us in general. I think people are unable to experience real tragedy or emergencies. That when in real life, they don't know how to act because they've been training their brains, like the trigger responses, to just like, oh, this is like entertaining. That's where their brain's going to go subconsciously. Is this why people don't call 911 when people are screaming for bloody murder? I mean, I don't know. It really concerns me. And it certainly should not be like, quote unquote, entertaining. Because in real life, death, destruction, murder, war, injury, these things are not entertaining. They're not funny. They're not cool. It's horrible. And like you said, I mean, if you haven't experienced it yourself, what does that do to a person when you see it in real life? How do you react to that?
Oh, yeah. That I would agree totally. I think I was like 14 when like Terror Train with Jamie Lee Curtis, and she was the Scream Queen back then. A bunch of different movies she was in. I remember watching a bunch of horror movies. They were the slasher type movies back in the day. And my son's a big fan of that shit. And I told him when he was young, I was like, look, your mind's only built to take so much abuse in blood and gore and stuff. It's a natural thing. But what I did notice with myself, like and it's happened several times where I was in a very violent place and something happened and people got injured or whatever. And in real life, it's almost like a filter for me. I can act and I can stop the bleeding, apply a tourniquet, whatever, deal with a sucking chest wound. It doesn't matter what it is. I can deal with it. But I've noticed my wife likes horror movies too. If we go see a horror movie or there's some messed up part in it, I don't even like to watch more war movies because of it. The other reason is I'll critique them and say how funny they are. But if I see somebody, let's say, I'll tell you a good one, and it made not live TV, but Twitter, whatever you want to call it, when that dude got his bicep vaporized in Wisconsin. I was like, I'm very, I don't know how to put it. It's almost like I feel the pain that I'm like, oh, shit. And that's how I feel about it. I've empathetic, I guess, is what the word I'm looking for. That, having been hurt a few times my own self, I just can imagine how bad that is. And so it's not something I enjoyed watching. It was one of those things where it's like, Jesus, that kind of thing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, you could have sympathy for the human being as a fellow human being, whereas the general public, it's just like we've already been shocked with this nonstop in TV and movies, and to the casual viewer, whether they know it's real when they're looking at it, but still in their brains somewhere, they're still thinking, oh, it's just like all this other crap, all this other splatter we already watch on TV anyway, I think it really desensitizes people, to humanity.
And I think you're right. I mean, you said fear porn, actual porn. There's studies out where 20-year-old dudes are having to take Viagra or whatever and just to get an erection because they watch porn and they think that's real life, that's real sex. And they miss the opportunity of passion, of the loving feeling, of all that shit, and they just watch porn and I guess torque one out to it. You know what I mean?
Yay, Hollywood. Hey, interesting.
Nobody wants to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know.
Question: what do you guys think of the movie Casualties of War? That's a war movie.
I missed it.
I don't believe I ever saw it either, brother. Sorry.
Oh man, it's an old film. It's with Michael J. Fox and Sean Penn, and it's set in Vietnam, and it's dealing with actually a true event where they were kidnapping girls from the villages and raping them, and some of the soldiers were later on prosecuted for the crimes. Really, really a good underrated war movie. I highly recommend it.
Okay, I doesn't sound like it would trip my trigger. I mean, that. Look, you got to remember, Angel. When I was over in Iraq, DynCorp was being, that was 2005, was being prosecuted for human trafficking. And that happened in Kosovo and also in Africa, those two countries.
Correct.
So, that's the kind of thing that, just doing what I do naturally is what we call the skin trade. And of course, unfortunately, that is too. There's a lot of things, prostitution, all that crap is made into that same thing. And it's just because our trade is actually dealing with people, one way or another. Luckily, knock wood, I'm knocking wood right now. I've never really had to deal with it except for one time, and that was working for a company I can't disclose now because I'm still in a lawsuit with them, where they were human trafficking people from Uganda, and they would be security at different places in Iraq, and those Ugandans were being trafficked under Obama's Aid for Africa program. And what happened was the Ugandan president, dictator for life, whatever you want to call him, was getting $2,000 per head from the U.S. government under the Aid for Africa program. And the Ugandans were making $600 a month pay per head. And that's human trafficking. And you could prove it because I accidentally stumbled on a drawer as I was putting training records up for these folks. I always wondered why I didn't see their passports. It was because the company was holding their passports. And I went to DCIS. I went to AFOSI. I went to Army CID and Navy NCIS now. And all of them were like, there's nothing we can do. And I'm confounded by that. And it wasn't until I got back, a brother of mine from one of those agencies, I'm not going to say which, because that'll give him up. He calls me up and he tells me that's Obama's Aid for Africa program. That's why nobody can touch it. And that's a factual story. And that's all I can say on that. I mean, honestly. All right, dead air. I muted myself too quick. I thought one of you two would have had something to say about that.
Speechless.
I was
it's the truth.
Yeah, I'm speechless also.
Well, it's the truth. I mean, our government's hands are never clean in a lot of things. But that's, like I said, we're talking about spooky things. I guess that's a spooky thing.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they'll make movies about lots of really frightening things, but how many movies do they make in Hollywood about that exact subject? Right there. When's the last time you saw a movie about, human trafficking?
Well, they won't do something.
There's been a few.
No, they won't do something about that subject in particular for two reasons. One, it's Obama. Mm-hmm. He's bulletproof. And the second reason is they depend on DOD. Every Hollywood theater, not theater as in what you go see movies in, but the theatric companies like MGM and all that, they all have DOD contacts. And DOD has to give permission for them to use let's say they're doing a Top Gun, to use an aircraft carrier to film on, to do this and film on it, around an aircraft. It just depends. Or, to have some advisors come on. And for that reason, unless they're using civilian advisors, people like me, they have to have somebody officially from DOD to make sure uniforms are correct, this, that, and the other, so it doesn't look like that movie where what's his name painted his face to look like a black man who plays some cartoon character in some Marvel universe or something. I can't think of the name of that.
You're talking about Tropic Thunder.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's
it.
Funny movie.
Yeah, but the uniforms weren't completely correct. There was
That
a lot
war
wrong
movie you
with the
guys
movie.
see, but an actual war movie like Casualties of War, no dice. That's historical.
Yeah, but I mean, that could have been an indie movie. I mean, I don't know the facts on that movie, but I guarantee if that's a factual movie like that,
it's a good movie.
They didn't have direct DoD. They didn't have direct DoD support. I'll bet money on it.
Oh, no, it was tough sale. Put it that way. It was a very tough release.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that's the reality of why Hollywood won't touch on certain subjects. And you got to remember, Frankfurt School affected first Columbia University, then it raged through all the universities, and it ended up in Hollywood. And there's a common bond and a common tie to all that, but I'm not getting into it on this show. But that's the point of it, is that money, media, propaganda, quote unquote, propaganda, that's what I believe the media all is, except for the stuff we're doing here, because this is content that comes from our mind free flowing. And also on the Boiler Room. It's free flowing mind thought. And when you're on there and you're talking with people, people are telling the truth, and they'll disagree. And that's really the foment and the ferment that gives good thought process. And propaganda doesn't give good thought process. It makes people fearful, or it makes people happy. It makes people carefree, lackadaisical. Propaganda is a very useful tool. And I guess that's something we can talk about on spookiness, because how easily, like you said earlier, Ruckus, on how easily everybody thinks they're their own person, and yet everybody can't wait to get their $95 or $120 Nikes when they come on sale. You know what I mean? Or the argument between, is it called Nike or Nike? You know, the bullshit. You know, the minutia. Your thoughts, man?
It's Nike, so it's not even an argument. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Yeah, it's actually, it's interesting because, obviously it's close to Halloween, and we've been talking about this kind of thing. I've discovered in my research behind a lot of these holidays that we celebrate, that for the most part they're very consumer driven. So it doesn't surprise me in the least that the same society types that want to instill us with the sense of fear all the time through movies and entertainment and media and politics, that they also want to sell us something at the same time. Take, for instance, Halloween. What we do in general, years, a long time ago, before the scary pandemic shut down the world, kids used to dress up in costumes and go out and trick or treat in exchange for candy. So all of the people would get together and pitch in some bucks at their local shops or Walmart, what have you, and buy a bunch of candy, buy a bunch of decorations, buy a bunch of costumes. And you know what? It may be worthless crap, and it might be silly, or maybe you're against the holiday or whatever, but it's part of, whether you like it or not, it's part of like our economy now. It's kind of the way the cycle goes. Like if you're a retailer, you can always usually count on like, oh, okay, sales were low this last month, but don't worry, Halloween's right around the corner. You know, we're gonna have a little bit of a boost in sales, and actually coming up real soon is gonna be one of the biggest one of all, the Black Friday, the sales they used to have. I mean, this pandemic and all of their response to it is really, really going to affect things much more frighteningly so in the long term on our economy. But the consumer life is it's bad. It is. I'm not a big fan of it, but since it's what we've been relying on as communities and our economy and everything, we kind of gotta. I don't know, man. I don't know what we're gonna do. It's like the whole rug has been ripped out from under us. So whether you like the rug or not doesn't matter, because now we got to deal with gravity.
Exactly, and gravity's a motherfucker. It can be your friend or your worst enemy. I will say this. I agree with you on the economy, especially I find something, and here's something spooky, folks. Think about this. What you normally would go out and purchase on your own, right? Not only have before any of the riots and stuff kicked off, think about it in two methodologies. The storefronts were closed out of fear of this pandemic. And after that, now you can't even go back because the storefronts have either been firebombed or they were in cities that were firebombed, and the retailer said, fuck it, we're not coming back anymore. And we're just shuttering our businesses. And so everything now is mail order. And, I mean, shit, we're almost having a mail order election at this point where certain states are saying we're going to send out mass mailings. And the amount of fraud already detected is beyond belief. And because people, I mean, even Tim Pool had a thing where he got mail for somebody to vote in a mass mailing when he was living in New Jersey. And the guy hasn't lived there for like a year. And out of California, I know a couple people that live in different states that lived in California. And they were forwarded their ballots. And this also happened in Florida from New York citizens. One of them was Steve Pasimic. His wife got her ballot from New York because they lived up there to vote in New York when they've been living in Florida for multiple years. So this is, you can say anecdotal, but when they found dumped out Trump votes, they found just empty ballots that weren't filled out, dumped somewhere. This is fact. This is what's going on. It should cause people to have a little bit of pause. And I've always done an absentee ballot. I thought I wouldn't be here right now, so I had one ordered a while back. And I'm still here. So I got it, talked to my voting people, and they said, well, I can fill it out and hand deliver it, and I'm going to do that. I'm not going to let the Postal Service deal with it this time. And that's an absentee ballot I asked for. You understand what I mean on that, brother?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I am one of those people who personally believes that his vote doesn't count. Every year since I've been able to vote, I have voted. I would always write in Kermit the Frog, and Kermit the Frog has yet to become president, so I find the whole process completely unfair.
Kermit the Frog here, and I thank you for your vote. And Miss Piggy also voted for me.
The one interesting thing, I love both of you guys. You're hilarious. The one thing that would make my heart leap for joy is to go back to the precincts where you voted and actually be able to look at the votes, and there'll be one other, and it'll be Kermit D. Frog. And it would do my heart joy to see that one vote, and I'd be like, there might be the second one from Miss Piggy. Yeah, okay, bro. It's like in Thailand when we go to a hotel with a girl. When I was a young degenerate man, people would write like Captain Kirk or Mr. Spock on the sign-in log, so people couldn't figure out where they were. So yeah, I understand that, man. I get where you're coming from, but the protest vote, I think, is as valid as a normal vote. That's one of the reasons why I liked two characters from a few election cycles ago. One was the rent is too damn high guy, and the other one was the guy shoe on head or something like that. I can't remember what.
Berman. Vermin something. I forget his name.
Vermin Supreme. Sorry, I was coughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's the guy who I may or I may have not voted for him or wished for him to be president more than a few times.
No, he's a classic dude, and walking around with a big waiter boot on his head. That's just hilarious. But yeah,
but I believe in the process as set forth by the founding fathers and what the whole thing is supposed to stand for. And I just unfortunately my own research and experiences led me to believe that wherever we're at right now, it's very much more in the control outside of my own personal hands. But yes, always something to say about the protest vote. Yes, I can say for certain I will not be voting for Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's fine. Vote wherever you want to vote. I don't even care if people vote for him. My point is vote. Get your voice heard, even if it's a protest vote. I don't care. That's one of the reasons why I joined the military was to look. Here's one of the little spooky stories about the military. Is a military member is not covered by the Constitution. You protect the Constitution so you can't be covered by it. And what we're covered by is called the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. And I believe it's the most fair legal system, but it's also one that doesn't have any real constitution. I mean, people could say that they do the Article 31 rights and all that, but in all honesty, you're going in front of a jury of your peers, and those peers who are picked as jury members, let's say you're a shitbird military guy, first thing the prosecutor is going to say is he's a shitbird military guy. And so most of those jurors are like staff NCOs, and they're going to look at your uniform. Oh, you've got this out of there. You got an Irish pennant hanging off your sleeve, whatever. And they're going to say, yeah, he's a shitbird. And they've already cast their vote until the trial's over. And they're not going to change their vote. There's nothing you can do. But it is the most fair form if it's just a courts martial. And there's two separate types of court martial. You have a fact-finding court martial. And that if you are wrong, that can go to a full-on prosecutorial court martial. And it can either be with the jury of your peers, which usually will fuck you worse than if you just go in front of, 3 officers. So, it just is what it is. That's why you have a general court martial, because a general holds sway on it. I don't know if you knew that, but that's how that all came about.
No, did not know. Now I know, and knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
Yo, Joe!
Exactly. Yo, Joe! No, and talk about good propaganda. Think about that. Sergeant Slaughter back in the day and the WWE combining with G.I. Joe. Yeah, I mean, that's some serious marketing. Vince McMahon really knew what the fuck he was doing. And so did the makers of G.I. Joe. I think, I believe it was a mutual friend of ours who posted a dank meme that I threw up on my page, and I've never gotten more hits on it. My personal page on FB. It was Conan for president, the Simian way, or Cimmerian way, however you pronounce that, made up culture. And it said, honesty and a voting platform. It says, to crush all enemies, see them driven before you, and they hear the lamentations of their women. So I enjoyed that one. That made me laugh, and a lot of other people. So vote Conan.
Fair enough.
So what else do you fear, my friend? Looks like we're running out of time. Angel, are we good with time, or what's up?
Yeah, I was going to say, I fear we're running out of time. About 3 minutes before we got to go. So you guys got to do what you got to do. We got Mitchell Nicholas Gerber waiting in the wings. and with Unleashed Truth Radio. So, gentlemen.
Cool. Ruckus, why don't you tell everybody where to find you, and then I'll close us out.
Tell us where to get the
Ruckus.
Ruckus.
You can find the Ruckus and all the other great content, including the Boiler Room that Kaiser talks nonstop about, at alternatecurrentradio.com. Just go there and you'll find a show page for the Daily Ruckus. I broadcast that Monday through Friday. It is a pre-recorded daily news program, and I spin some headlines and throw in some snarky comments and opinion, and by the time the whole thing is done, they're really short stuff, 15, 20 minutes max. You're like, wow, that was pretty fun. I had a good time, and I learned something. So tune in, check it out. Let me know what you like what you think. Like and follow, find me on the socials, etc. Thank you again, Kaiser, for having me. And yeah, alternatecurrentradio.com.
Awesome. That's a great lead up. And as always, folks, I always pimp ACR, Alternative Current Radio. I always pimp PSN first. Make sure that you subscribe to PSN on it's not Subscribestar, it's Patreon. And make sure to support the content creators that you care about and love. WPRPN, World Pirate Radio Podcast Network. And if you're lucky enough and you reach out to me, I might put you on my own personal Discord that I have. The title of it will remain Mysterio until somebody asks me and I vet them, because I'm keeping my personal Discord very, very close to my chest. And with that being said, thank you for stopping by Kaiser's Castle and taking a seat on my big orange couch. As you finish your coffee, tea, soda, or adult libation, I will slowly raise the drawbridge as you meander on out my door. That being said, Chef out.